For today's short meditation, let us turn our pages to Psalms chapter 18, verses 7 to 15. These verses present a very great descriptions of storm found in the Bible. Here we see how David portrays in these verses. And when we go through these verses, we understand that not all storms that we come across are bad. Here we see that in verse 7 to 15, David is saying that God is the creator and that God is the deliverer. He uses everything from this nature to come to our aid. Throughout these verses, it shows a kind of graphic picture of how God rescues his children, how God works with the nature to help his child. And we see that in these verses from verse 7 to 15, it says, "The earth shook down to its foundations," and we see the smoke came up, and the fire came out, coals were kindled, the heavens bowed down, the wind began to blow, for God was coming on the wings of the wind. We see darkness, dark waters, thick clouds, even hailstones and coals of fire, and thunder, lightning, and everything that is happening in this storm. And we see that the very breath of God was blowing across the field like thunder and lightning. Even though the darkness and everything is covering, we see how God's own breath is coming out like thunder and lightning. When the child of God is in his will, all the nature works for him. And when the child of God is out of his will, we see that the whole nature, everything works against him. The great example is Jonah. We see when Jonah ran away from God in disobedience, and what happened? The storm happened, and the storm appeared. And we see the winds, the waves were very violent. And we see that even the boat were going up and down. And even the Marines who were there with him were very scared. They were very worried about how the storm hit them. But we see how Jonah disobeyed God, and everything in the nature worked against him to come back to God's will. Here David obeyed God, and we see and everything in nature worked for him. So today we need to understand, is everything in our nature is working in us? Is it good or bad? We see God can use the storms in our life to fulfill his will in our life. So not all kind of storms that we come across our life is very bad. Some storms are there to put us in track, to come back to his will. And we need to remember and be reminded not to be afraid. The thing when we come across these verses, not to be afraid. And storms can come from the hand of God, and sometimes they are blessing and sometimes they're not. So we need to always examine ourselves where we are. Are we in the right track, or we are coming across these kind of storms in our life to put us back on the right track? So let us begin each day thinking that the whole nature that we are here, the whole surrounding works for his glory. And when we are in his will, it works well for us. And if we are not in his will, it works against us. So let us be grateful for God for giving us all the opportunity to enjoy these natures. Let us keep in mind that not all storms are bad, but rather they are there to put us back in his will.